The world had gone silent. No signals, no power, just the sound of the storm tearing through the sky. It was supposed to be a normal night on John's farm, but now the air was thick with static and fear. The solar storm had hit harder than anyone expected. He tried the radio again. Nothing, just white noise. His phone was dead. The lights flickered weakly, and the entire countryside was swallowed in red and orange light from the raging sky. The auroras shimmered like fire, twisting across the clouds, turning night into something unreal. John stepped to the window, the old wooden frame creaking as wind howled past the house. His crops were gone, his tractors useless, and he hadn't seen another human being in 2 days. The silence outside was unnerving, like the whole planet was holding its breath. He poured himself a cup of black coffee, trying to stay calm. That's when he heard it, a knock. It was faint at first. Then again louder. John froze. No one should be out there. Not in a storm like this. He grabbed his flashlight, its weak beam cutting through the dark hallway, and walked toward the door. The wind outside screamed like a living thing, rattling the walls. He hesitated, then slowly unlatched the lock. When he opened the door, he couldn't believe what he saw. 13 figures stood there, their silhouettes glowing faintly in the stormlight. They were tall, strong, and covered in strange metallic armor that looked worn but powerful. Their faces were partly hidden behind visors, but he saw the unmistakable shape of muzzles, fangs, and wolf-like eyes glowing yellow in the darkness. One stepped forward. Her voice was low but clear. "Human, we need shelter." John's heart pounded. For a moment he couldn't move. They weren't human, not even close, but their tone wasn't hostile. Not yet. He looked past them. The wind was tearing through the fields, pieces of debris flying everywhere. The storm wasn't just a storm anymore, it felt alive, like it was hunting something. He swallowed hard. "Come in," he said finally. The first of them stepped inside, her armor humming softly. The others followed silently, dripping rain and ash onto the wooden floor. The temperature dropped instantly. John closed the door and locked it, though he knew the lock meant nothing against beings like them. He studied them quietly. Each one was different. Some had long silver hair, others dark fur streaked with scars. Their eyes glowed with strange intelligence and weariness. They looked like soldiers who had been fighting for a long time. The leader took off her helmet, revealing a face both wild and graceful. Her sharp ears twitched at the sound of thunder. "My name is Kara," she said. "Alpha of the 13th Hunt." John tried to keep his voice steady. You're not from here, are you?" Kara's golden eyes flicked toward the window. "Not anymore." Lightning flashed, lighting up their armor with orange sparks. John noticed strange marks burned into their chest plates, symbols he didn't recognize. He gestured toward the fireplace. "You can warm up here." "The power's gone. Only fireworks now." Kara nodded, and 2 of her huntresses quickly moved toward the hearth, starting a fire with small plasma tools. The flames roared to life, painting their metallic armor with flickering light. For a moment, the farmhouse felt almost safe, but John couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. As the fire grew brighter, he saw one of the huntresses clutching her side. Her armor cracked, blood dark against the steel. Another was checking a small device, shaking her head. It was dead, like all human tech since the storm began. "What happened to you?" John finally asked. Kara looked at him for a long time, then said quietly, "Your son." It roared too bright. "The storm reached our ship before we could jump. We fell, say here, you crashed?" She nodded. "Your planet pulled us in. The storm burned our engines. We lost contact with command, and now something is hunting us." John felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Something? Out there?" Kara's eyes narrowed. "The storm woke it. It follows energy, life, heat. We cannot stay outside." Before he could speak again, the house shook violently. A deep rumble rolled through the ground like distant thunder, but heavier, closer. The huntresses tensed, their weapons humming faintly even though the power grid was dead. Kara turned sharply toward the window. "It's found us," John's breath caught. "What has?" She looked at him, her voice low and grim. "A shadow born from your storm. A predator made of plasma and hunger. It killed our sisters before we reached your farm." The wind outside screamed again, the air crackling with strange energy. For a brief second, John saw something. Something moving through the fields, glowing faintly blue against the red sky. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. Kara barked in order in her language. The Huntresses formed a defensive circle, weapons raised. John could hear their heavy breathing, the click of metallic claws against the floor. The lights flickered again, though there was no power. The storm outside was alive. John backed away slowly, his pulse racing. "You brought it here," he whispered. Kara didn't look away from the window. "No, human. It was already here. Your storm just gave it a body." A sharp crash echoed through the barn outside. The Huntresses moved instantly, forming up at the door, their eyes glowing like fire. Kara turned to John. "Stay inside. Whatever happens, do not open this door again." John nodded, but his hands were trembling. As the Huntresses stepped back out into the roaring wind, the sky flashed again, red, gold, and violet. He caught one last glimpse of Kara's face before the door slammed shut. Her expression wasn't fear. It was determination. The sound outside grew louder, shouts, metallic clashes, the scream of something unnatural. Then silence again. John stood there in the flickering firelight, the farmhouse trembling around him. The storm hadn't passed, it was just beginning. The wind outside screamed like a living creature. John stood frozen by the door, listening to the chaos beyond the walls of his farmhouse. The storm's red light flashed through the windows, turning everything inside into shades of blood and flame. He could hear the Huntresses shouting in their strange language. Short, sharp commands. Then came the sound of plasma fire. Blue-white flashes cut through the darkness. Something out there roared back, deep and heavy. Shaking the ground under his feet, John gripped the edge of the table, heart pounding. He wanted to help. But what could a farmer do against whatever that thing was? The noise stopped. For a few seconds, the world went still again. Only the wind remained, howling through the broken barn doors. Then came footsteps, heavy ones. The door burst open, and one of the Huntresses stumbled in. Her armor was cracked, one arm hanging uselessly. She fell to her knees. John ran forward and caught her before she hit the floor. "You're hurt." She tried to speak but could only whisper. "It adapts." Her voice was weak, her breathing shallow. "It learns." Before John could ask anything, Kara and the others stormed back inside. Their armor was scorched, smoke rising from their weapons. Kara's expression was grim. "Seal the windows," she ordered. Two of her soldiers moved instantly, dragging wooden boards across the openings. The farmhouse became darker, the only light coming from the flickering fire. John looked at Kara. What happened out there? Kara knelt beside the injured huntress and pressed something against her neck. A small metal patch that glowed faintly before fading. She looked up at him. "It's worse than we thought." The storm gave it power. "Feeds on energy, ours, yours, anything alive." John frowned. "Feeds? You mean it's alive?" Kara stood up slowly. "Alive is not the right word. It's aware. The storm changed your world. It created a hunter. Outside, something scraped along the barn wall. Slow, deliberate, like claws on metal. The sound made John's skin crawl. Kara turned to him. "You said you have underground storage here?" John nodded quickly. "Yes, the root cellar. Under the kitchen." "Show us," she said. He led them to the kitchen, pulling back a heavy trap door. A cold draft rose from below. The Huntresses moved down first, their glowing eyes cutting through the darkness. John followed, clutching his flashlight. The cellar was deep and narrow, lined with old shelves and crates of supplies. The walls were thick, built generations ago, strong enough to survive storms and even small quakes. Kara scanned the area. "This will do for now." She turned to two of her warriors. "Set perimeter sensors. Use passive mode. No power output." John watched as they placed small metallic discs around the cellar walls. They didn't light up, just made a faint hum like sleeping machines. "Those will tell us if it gets close," Kara said. John took a shaky breath. "You keep saying it. What exactly are we talking about?" Kara's eyes glowed faintly gold in the dark. "We called them void phantoms. Energy-born predators. They live where storms tear space apart. When we fell through your atmosphere, one followed us. It wants to feed. It will not stop." John felt his stomach twist. "And you brought it here?" "To my farm," Kara's voice softened. "We didn't mean to. Your planet caught our ship in its gravity. We tried to warn your people, but your systems were already dead." She paused, listening. The wind had stopped. Total silence now, the kind that made your ears ring. Then came a whisper, faint like static through a radio, but it wasn't coming from any device. It came from inside the walls. Kara's ears twitched. "It's learning your language." John's heart skipped. "What?" She raised a hand to silence him. The whisper grew clearer, echoing softly through the cellar. It was his own voice, repeating words he had spoken earlier. "Come in." The exact same words he had said when he opened the door to them. Kara's hand went to her weapon instantly. It can mimic sound. "It's trying to trick us." The cellar lights flickered again, though there was no electricity. The air grew colder. One of the Huntresses pointed toward the stairway. Movement. Kara took position near the trap door, signaling for silence. John could barely breathe, then a loud crash. The trap door splintered open, and a flash of blue light filled the room. The creature dropped down like liquid shadow, forming itself out of smoke and lightning. It had no solid body, only glowing veins of energy and a shape that kept shifting, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Kara fired first. The plasma shot tore through the cellar, lighting up the walls. The thing screamed at a horrible sound, half animal, half machine. The other Huntresses joined in, their weapons thundering in the small space. John ducked behind the shelves, covering his ears. The entire cellar shook with every blast. Sparks flew as the creatures smashed against the walls, trying to absorb the energy of their weapons. Kara saw it and shouted, "Stop firing!" "It's feeding on it." The Huntresses stopped instantly. The light faded. The creature hesitated, its body flickering weakly now, uncertain. Kara threw something from her belt, a small metal sphere that landed at the creature's feet. It pulsed once, then exploded in a silent burst of light. The creature shrieked and dissolved into mist. The cellar filled with the smell of ozone and burning air. Silence returned. John peeked out slowly. "Is it dead?" Kara shook her head. "No, only weakened. It will reform when it gathers enough energy." He stared at her, trying to make sense of it all. "Then what do we do?" Kara looked up toward the shattered trapdoor. "We end the storm," John blinked. "End the storm? How?" Kara's expression hardened. "Your son's outburst disrupted something ancient, something that shouldn't exist near this planet. If we don't stop it, this creature will spread. It will multiply. Humanity will not survive." She turned to her team. "Prepare the beacon. We send signal to orbit. Even without power, we use the old way." One of her warriors nodded and began assembling strange pieces of tech. Wires, crystals, bits of damaged circuits. It didn't look like anything John had ever seen. He watched, his heart pounding. Outside, the storm roared again. The house above them creaked and groaned. The thing wasn't gone. It was waiting. Kara looked at John one last time. "You wanted to know why we came here, human?" He nodded slowly. Her golden eyes glowed brighter. "We weren't chasing the storm. We were chasing what it carried." The storm raged again, louder than before. The house above them groaned as wind tore at its walls. The Huntresses moved quickly, setting up their strange devices in the cellar. Their armor glowed faintly as they worked in silence. John watched them, still trying to understand what Kara had meant. They weren't chasing the storm. They were chasing what it carried. He stepped closer to her. "What does that mean?" "What was inside the storm?" Kara didn't look at him. She was connecting thin silver wires to a glowing crystal. "It means, human, that your planet has become a doorway. The storm opened something." "A rift, a rift," John repeated quietly. Kara nodded. "Between worlds. Between energy and matter. The void phantom is only the first thing to cross. If we fail, more will follow." The words made his blood run cold. He looked up at the ceiling. Dust drifted down from the boards above, shaken by distant thunder. "So it's not just about this thing. It's about everything coming after it." Kara's gaze finally met his. "Yes, you understand now." The youngest of the Huntresses, a silver-haired warrior with piercing blue eyes, approached Kara and spoke softly in their language. Kara listened, then turned back to John. "We've detected another energy pulse. It's reforming near your barn." John felt his chest tighten. "That's where I keep the generator." Kara's expression darkened. "Then it will feed faster." She motioned to her team. "We move now." Before John could protest, the Huntresses climbed up the broken trapdoor one by one. He followed, holding a lantern. The air was colder now, unnaturally so. The storm's light through the windows was dimmer, like the world itself was fading. Outside, the field was covered in glowing mist. The barn stood barely visible through it, the old wooden structure creaking in the wind. Kara raised her hand for silence. The Huntresses spread out in a defensive arc. Then the mist began to move. It swirled slowly at first, then faster, pulling itself into a shape. Sparks of blue light flashed inside it, forming limbs, claws, and a shifting, screaming face. The void phantom had returned, larger this time, its body more defined, almost humanoid. Kara gave a sharp signal. The Huntresses hurled small discs into the ground around it. The discs pulsed red, creating a glowing circle of containment. For a moment it worked. The creature hissed, trapped, but then the ground shook. The red light dimmed as the phantom absorbed the energy again. Kara's plan was failing. John ran toward the generator, ignoring her shout to stop. He yanked open the metal cover and ripped out the last working power cell. He didn't understand their technology, but he had an idea, one born from desperation. Kara saw him and shouted, "What are you doing?" John threw the power cell into the containment circle. The phantom lunged for it instinctively, wrapping its shifting form around the glowing core. For a brief second it froze, as if paralyzed by the overload. "Now!" Kara ordered. The Huntresses fired together. 13 blue plasma bursts struck the creature at once. The explosion lit up the entire farm like daylight. The ground cracked, dust flying into the air. When the light faded, the phantom was gone. John fell to his knees, ears ringing, chest heaving. Kara walked over and pulled him up. "You took a risk," she said. "A foolish one. But it worked," he gave a tired smile. "Guess I got lucky." Kara looked around the field, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon. The mist was gone, the air still. For the first time, the storm seemed quieter. "It's not over," she said softly. "What do you mean?" John asked. "The phantom's energy didn't disappear," Kara replied. "It went somewhere else. Underground, maybe. Something beneath your land draws it," John frowned. "Underground?" "There's nothing there. Just soil, rock, and the old well." Kara's gaze turned toward the hill behind the farmhouse. "Show me." They walked in silence, the rest of the Huntresses following close behind. The hill was small, with wild grass swaying in the wind. An ancient stone well stood at its center, half buried, covered in moss. John's grandfather had built the farm around it decades ago. He remembered being told never to go near it. "The well's been dry for years," he said. Kara knelt beside it, brushing her fingers along the stone. Strange symbols glowed faintly where her touch passed. "This isn't a well. It's a seal." "A seal?" "Yes," she whispered. "Your people built on top of something ancient. The storm reactivated it. The energy we fought came from here." Before John could respond, the ground trembled. The air above the well shimmered with faint blue light. One of the Huntresses stepped forward to scan it, but Kara stopped her. "Don't touch it," Kara warned. "It's opening again." The blue light grew stronger, twisting upward like a spiral. John stumbled back, shielding his eyes. The light flickered, and a deep sound came from below, like a heartbeat echoing through the earth. Kara turned to her team. "We hold this ground. No one leaves." John looked at her in disbelief. "Hold it against what?" Kara's voice was steady. "Against whatever comes next." The wind picked up again, howling across the fields. The sky turned a deeper shade of red, lightning dancing silently across the clouds. Kara drew her blade, a weapon made of energy, glowing like liquid silver. The Huntresses followed her lead, forming a circle around the well. John felt his knees go weak as the light grew brighter. He could see shapes moving inside it, shadows pressing against the barrier, struggling to break through. Kara's voice was calm, but her eyes burned with fierce resolve. "This is what we were sent to stop." The first phantom was only the scout. "The storm is their doorway," John's heart pounded. "If they come through, then your world ends," she said simply. The light flared one last time, then burst into the sky. The force threw John to the ground. He heard Kara shout orders as the Huntresses raised their weapons, ready to face whatever was coming. And through the roaring wind and blinding light, John saw something rising from the well, something enormous, ancient, and alive. It was not a storm anymore, it was the beginning of an invasion. The light from the well ripped through the sky like a blade. John shielded his eyes, his body trembling from the force of the energy. The ground beneath him vibrated with a deep, endless hum, as if the earth itself was alive. Kara and her huntresses stood their ground, their weapons glowing faintly against the storm's red glare. Then the light took form. Something vast and shadowed rose from the well, a being made of energy, wind, and echoes. It didn't walk. It floated, pulsing like a heart of lightning. Its body was constantly shifting, stretching into the air like smoke trying to escape gravity. Its voice wasn't a roar. It was a chorus of whispers that filled the air, speaking in hundreds of tones at once. Kara raised her weapon. The other huntresses followed her, forming a half-circle between the creature and the farmhouse. John could only stare in disbelief. He had never seen anything so terrible or so beautiful. The creature spoke, not with words but directly into their minds. The sound was like thunder mixed with static. "You cannot close what is already open." Kara gritted her teeth. "We closed it once before. We can do it again." The creature pulsed and the wind exploded outward. The huntresses braced themselves as dust and debris tore through the air. John fell to his knees, trying to crawl behind a fallen log. His ears rang from the pressure. Kara shouted, "Positions!" Phase shield pattern delta. The huntresses slammed glowing rods into the ground. A translucent dome of energy shimmered around them. The creature's next wave of energy hit the barrier and broke apart, scattering light across the field. John watched as the huntresses held the line, their armor sparking with strain. He could see the effort on Kara's face, her muscles tight, her fangs gritted in pain. The shield was holding, but barely. One of the younger huntresses, the one with silver hair, stumbled. The barrier flickered. Kara turned instantly, pulling her back into position. "Stay with me, Lyra." Lyra gasped, her voice trembling. "It's draining us, Alpha. It's feeding on the shield." Kara's eyes narrowed. "Then we turn off the light," she signaled to her warriors. The shield collapsed, and in the same instant Kara sprinted forward, faster than John's eyes could follow. She leapt straight toward the creature, her energy blade cutting through the air. The creature struck back, a tendril of lightning sweeping toward her, but she rolled beneath it and sliced upward. The impact sent a shockwave across the field. The huntresses joined her, attacking in synchronized movement, blades and plasma fire flashing through the mist. For every strike that hit, the creature changed shape, repairing itself. It screamed again, shaking the air. John felt the sound inside his bones. He crawled toward the barn, desperate to find anything that could help. His flashlight beam caught the wreckage of the huntress's ship, half buried near the edge of the field. He stumbled toward it. Inside the broken hull, he found glowing panels, cracked crystals, and strange cylinders still humming with faint power. He didn't know what they were, but one of them had a red symbol pulsing like a heartbeat. It looked dangerous and powerful. He heard Kara shouting outside. The creature had wrapped 2 of her soldiers in glowing tendrils, lifting them into the air. They screamed as the energy drained from their armor. Kara leapt up and slashed through the tendrils, catching both before they hit the ground. John looked at the device again. Might be a weapon, or a bomb. He hesitated only for a second before picking it up. The hum grew louder, as if reacting to his touch. He ran back toward Kara, shouting over the storm. "I found something." Kara saw the device and her eyes widened. "Where did you get that?" "The ship," he shouted. "It's still active." Kara looked at the creature, then at him. "That's a fusion core. It's unstable. You can't—" Before she could finish, the creature turned its attention toward John. The ground cracked open, and a surge of blue fire raced toward him. Kara sprinted and slammed into him, pushing him out of the way. The blast hit her instead, throwing her across the field. John hit the ground hard, gasping for breath. Kara lay a few meters away, her armor smoking. She struggled to move, but her strength was fading. The creature loomed above them now, its glowing form towering over the field. "You are only delaying the inevitable," it said in that awful, many-voiced tone. "Your kind burns bright, but all lights fade." John looked at the fusion core still glowing in his hands. He didn't know how to use it, but Kara's voice echoed in his mind. "We closed it once before. Maybe this thing could close it again." He crawled to Kara. "Tell me how to use it." She opened her eyes weakly. "You can't. It needs a neural link." A living mind. It'll burn you. I don't care, John said. Tell me. Kara looked at him for a long moment, then placed her clawed hand over his. You link it here, she said softly, touching a small switch on the side. When it hums, press the core to the ground. Think of closing the door. Think of silence. John nodded, his hands shaking. He turned toward the creature, the hum growing louder. The light around the core turned white. The creature screamed, realizing what he was doing. It sent a surge of energy toward him. The Huntresses moved to block it, taking the hit with their bodies. Their armor cracked, but they held firm. John pressed the core into the dirt. The light exploded upward, cutting through the storm clouds like a pillar of fire. The energy from the creature twisted violently, pulled into the light. Kara shouted, "It's working! Keep going!" The sound was deafening. The creature's form broke apart, its voice turning into static. The well began to close, the rift folding in on itself. The storm above flickered, its colors fading from red to gray. John's vision blurred. The core's light burned through his hands, through his arms, through his mind. He screamed, but he didn't stop. Then, silence, the light vanished. The sky cleared. The only sound was the wind moving gently through the grass. Kara crawled toward him. The core lay cracked beside him, its glow fading. John was still breathing, barely. His eyes fluttered open. Did it work? He whispered. Kara looked up at the sky, calm, blue, quiet. Yes, she said softly. You closed the rift. He smiled faintly. Good. Then it's over. Kara's eyes darkened. Not over, she said quietly. Never over. The door will try to open again, but now, humanity knows how to fight back. John's vision dimmed. He saw the Huntresses standing in the fading light, their armor damaged, their faces solemn. Kara leaned close, her voice a whisper only he could hear. Rest now, human. You did what no one else could. His eyes closed. The wind carried the last remnants of the storm away into the horizon. Kara stood and looked toward the well, now sealed once more. She placed her hand on the cold stone. We'll be ready, she murmured. Next time. The Huntresses turned toward the distant sky, where faint lights shimmered, the signs of other storms waiting to come. And as the sun rose over the quiet farm, Kara lifted her weapon once more, her golden eyes reflecting the dawn. Humanity had survived the first strike. But war was coming. Dawn crept slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the ruined farm. The ground was scorched in places, marked by cracks where the rift had burned through reality. Smoke rose from the barn and the air smelled of ash and ozone. The once red storm clouds had cleared, leaving behind a pale, empty sky. For the first time in days, the world seemed quiet. Too quiet. Kara knelt beside John's body. His face was peaceful, the lines of exhaustion softened by the morning light. His hands were still burned from the fusion core, the skin marked with faint blue veins of energy that pulsed once and then faded. She brushed dust from his shirt and looked at him for a long moment without speaking. One of the Huntresses, Lyra, stepped forward slowly. Alpha, she said quietly. His vitals, they stopped during the collapse. Should we prepare him for return? Kara didn't answer at first. Her golden eyes were fixed on the farmhouse, the broken doors swinging gently in the breeze. He saved us, she said finally. He saved more than us. Without him, this world would already belong to the void. Lyra lowered her head respectfully. Then he should be remembered as one of us. Kara nodded once. He will be. The Huntresses began to gather the remains of their fallen, placing each broken armor plate and weapon carefully into the ship's remains. The field that had once been John's home now looked like a battlefield from another world. The grass was burned, the soil blackened, yet the sun still rose, and the wind still carried the scent of earth. Life, fragile but persistent, was returning. Kara turned toward the well. The stone seal was dark and cold again, but faint cracks of blue light pulsed beneath it. It was not gone, only sleeping. She placed her palm on the stone and whispered something in her language, a vow that sounded like both a prayer and a warning. Lyra watched her silently, then spoke. The core's energy readings are stable. The rift is closed, but the radiation pattern remains. Should we destroy it? Kara shook her head. No, if we destroy it, we might open it again. The seal stays. The human sacrifice bound it with his energy. That makes this place sacred now. Another huntress, older and broader than the rest, looked toward the farmhouse. What about the humans? They'll come here eventually. They'll see what happened. Kara's gaze followed hers. Then they'll know the truth. Maybe not today, maybe not this century, but they'll remember that something tried to take their world, and someone stood against it. A faint sound broke the silence, the hum of a weak power source. Kara turned quickly, weapon raised, but the sound was coming from John's body. His chest emitted a soft rhythmic vibration. The burns on his arms began to glow faintly again. Lyra gasped. "Alpha, look!" Kara knelt beside him, scanning him with a small device from her wrist. The readings flickered in confusion. "Impossible," she whispered. "He's resonating with the seal." John's eyes opened slightly. The pupils glowed faintly blue. His breathing was slow but steady. He looked at Kara with confusion, then spoke weakly. "You said it was closed." Kara stared at him, speechless. "You shouldn't be alive. The core should have burned through every cell in your body." John tried to sit up, grimacing. "Guess it didn't finish the job." Lyra smiled faintly, relief mixing with awe. "Human resilience," she said quietly. "We always underestimated it." Kara helped him sit up, still studying him carefully. His skin shimmered faintly where the burns had been. The energy lines beneath his skin pulsed in sync with the faint light beneath the well. "You're linked to it now," Kara said softly. "The seal accepted you. It sees you as its guardian." John blinked, trying to process her words. "Guardian? You mean I'm stuck with this thing?" Kara almost smiled. "Not stuck, chosen. The seal recognized your intent, your will to protect. It bound itself to that." "Do you?" John looked toward the well where faint blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. "So if it opens again, you'll feel it," Kara said. "And you'll be able to stop it." John laughed quietly, though his voice was still weak. "I'm a farmer, not a soldier." Kara's tone softened. "You were both when it mattered." For the first time since the storm began, the air felt calm. The huntresses stood silently around them, their armor reflecting the pale light of morning. The world was healing. Kara rose and looked at her team. "We can't stay. Our ship is beyond repair, but the beacon is functional. We'll send a message home. Others will come," Lyra nodded. "And him?" Kara looked down at John. "He stays. The seal needs him." John forced a small smile. "Guess I'm not going anywhere anyway." Kara extended her hand to him, a gesture of both respect and farewell. "Then this farm is not just your home anymore. It's your post, and as long as you guard it, the huntresses will answer your call." John took her hand firmly. "Let's hope I never have to make that call." Kara released him and stepped back. The huntresses moved toward the beacon, a tall, metallic rod they placed in the center of the field. It lit up briefly, sending a bright signal into the sky before fading away. One by one, the huntresses disappeared into the mist, their forms dissolving into faint trails of light as their armor's cloaking systems activated. Only Kara remained, standing at the edge of the field watching John. "The storm will return," she said quietly. "Maybe in a year, maybe in 100. When it does, remember this. The void cannot create. It only consumes. As long as you stand, it will fear you." John nodded. "And you?" She smiled faintly. "We'll be watching the stars." With that, Kara turned and walked into the mist. The light around her shimmered and then vanished completely. The wind rustled the grass where she had stood, leaving only silence behind. John looked around the ruined farm, the faint hum of the seal echoing beneath his feet. He walked to the well, placing his hand on the cold stone. The faint blue glow responded instantly, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. He looked up at the calm sky, the last traces of the storm fading beyond the horizon. The world was quiet again, but he knew it wouldn't stay that way forever. Somewhere, far beyond the stars, something else was watching, waiting, and when the next storm came, humanity would be ready. The following days passed in strange silence. The sky had cleared, the fields were calm again, and the animals slowly returned from hiding. But the air around the farm felt different. Sometimes when John walked near the old well, he could hear faint whispers carried by the wind. They weren't words he understood, but he felt them deep inside his chest, like the echo of something ancient and alive. John's body still glowed faintly at night. Thin blue lines traced along his arms and neck, pulsing softly like veins of light. He had tried to hide them under his shirt and gloves, but they never faded. When he touched the soil, the plants around his fingers grew faster, healthier. Even the grass that had been burned black during the storm began to turn green again wherever he walked. He didn't talk about it to anyone. There was no one left to tell anyway. The nearest town had gone dark during the solar storm, and most people had evacuated days before the Huntresses arrived. The radio still carried only static, but one evening, just as the sun sank behind the hills, the static changed. John froze as the crackling noise from the radio shifted into a faint signal. A voice broke through, rough and filled with static. "Do any survivors? Farm coordinates. Anomaly detected. Repeat. Anomaly detected near Western Ridge." He quickly grabbed the radio and pressed the button. "This is John. The farm's still here. Who's calling?" The signal fizzed, then came again, clearer this time. Earth Defense Survey Team, responding to multiple energy spikes after the storm. "Are you alone?" John hesitated. "Mostly," he said carefully. "But you should stay away from the well." There was silence on the other end, then a short laugh. "Copy that, farmer. We'll be there by morning." He turned the radio off slowly. He wasn't sure if he wanted them to come. That night, he couldn't sleep. The well pulsed more brightly than usual, sending waves of blue light across the yard. When he stepped outside, the ground under his boots vibrated faintly. The whispers grew louder, rising and falling like a chant. "Kara," he whispered into the wind. "If you can hear me, what did you leave behind?" The air shimmered slightly as if answering him. For a brief second, he saw her face. Not solid, but a ghostly projection formed from light and dust. Her eyes glowed gold, just as he remembered. "Guardian," her voice echoed softly, distant and calm. "The seal is stable, but something is pressing against it from the other side." John's throat tightened. "You mean it's coming back?" Kara's image flickered. "Not yet, but the void never stops trying. The human soldiers, the ones coming tomorrow, they will want to study the seal. You must not let them open it," he frowned. "They won't listen to me. They'll see technology, power, maybe even a weapon. Then make them believe," Kara said. "Use the link. The seal trusts you now. We'll show them what lies beneath if they try to disturb it." The projection began to fade. John reached out instinctively. "Will I see you again?" Her image gave a faint smile before dissolving into the night air. When the stars burned red again, look to the storm. Then she was gone. By morning, the Earth Defense Team arrived in armored vehicles. They wore heavy radiation suits and carried scanning equipment that buzzed constantly. Their leader, a tall man named Captain Rhodes, approached John with a cautious smile. "Quite a place you've got here," Rhodes said, glancing around. "Our sensors picked up power readings off the charts. You mind showing us where it's coming from?" John nodded slowly. "Follow me. But don't touch anything." They walked to the old well. The soldiers stared at the faintly glowing stones in awe. One of them lifted his scanner, eyes wide. "Captain, this isn't any form of radiation we know. It's structured energy." Rhodes crouched near the edge, reaching out a gloved hand. "Looks harmless to me." Before he could touch it, the ground vibrated violently. Blue light flashed upward, and every piece of metal the soldiers carried began to hum. The air filled with the same whisper John had heard before, deep echoing almost like a growl. "Step back," John shouted. "You're waking it up." The men stumbled backward as the light pulsed harder. For a second, the sky above them turned dark, as if clouds had suddenly formed. Then the glow dimmed again. Rhodes looked at John, his face pale. "What was that?" John stared at the well. "That," he said quietly, "was a warning." The captain swallowed hard, then gestured for his men to retreat. "We'll mark this area as unstable. You should come with us, farmer." "This place isn't safe," John shook his head. "It's safer with me here than without." Rhodes studied him for a moment, then nodded reluctantly. "All right, but we'll be keeping an eye on you and this place." When they left, John stood alone again. The whispers were gone and the well was quiet, but deep beneath the earth something moved. Not fully awake, but not fully asleep either. John looked toward the horizon where the soldiers' vehicles disappeared. He knew they would return, maybe with scientists, maybe with weapons. But whatever came next, he was ready. He placed his hand on the stone again, and the faint blue pulse responded to his touch. The energy flowed through him, calm and steady. The farm was still his home, but now it was also the world's last defense, and somewhere far beyond the stars, the Huntresses watched, waiting for the next storm. Weeks passed quietly after the soldiers left. The farm began to recover, green fields returning where the soil had been burned. The animals grazed again, the fences stood repaired, and for the first time in months, John felt something like peace. Yet the silence never lasted long. Every night he would stand on the porch and look toward the old well. It still glowed faintly like a heartbeat under the ground. Sometimes he imagined it was breathing with him. The government never came back in person, but drones flew overhead more often now. He could see their red lights tracing patterns across the night sky. They never came close enough to speak, but he knew they were watching. Sometimes he wondered if they thought he was just a farmer, or something else entirely. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, John noticed something unusual. The glow from the well had changed. It wasn't blue anymore. It flickered between blue and red, almost like it was struggling to decide which it wanted to be. He walked closer, feeling the static crawl across his skin. The light grew brighter with each step. He knelt beside the stone and whispered, "Kaera, if you can hear me, something's wrong." For a few seconds there was only silence. Then a faint shimmer appeared above the well. Kaera's image flickered into view, weaker than before. Her armor looked damaged, her expression tense. "Guardian," she said softly. "The void is stirring again. The seal is being tested from the other side." John's chest tightened. "I thought you said it would take years before it tried again." Kara shook her head. "We were wrong. The void learns faster now. It adapts." Her voice cracked with interference. "You must strengthen the link. The energy within you. It's the bridge between this world and the seal. You must focus it." He frowned. "How?" "I don't even know what I'm doing." Kara's projection leaned closer. "You already do. When you fought beside us, you didn't just touch the core. You absorbed part of it. That bond makes you more than human now. You can guide the seal, but it will cost you strength." John took a deep breath and placed both hands on the stone. The surface pulsed under his palms, glowing brighter. The air vibrated and the ground shook faintly. He closed his eyes, thinking of the night he met Kara, of her golden eyes, the Huntress's courage, and the storm that nearly destroyed everything. He poured those memories into the light. The glow steadied. The red faded away, replaced by a pure, calm blue. Kara's image brightened for a moment. "It's holding," she said, relief softening her tone. "But remember this, you can't fight it alone forever. When the next storm comes, call us." Her image flickered again, fading like smoke. John tried to reach out. "Kara, wait. How will I—" But she was gone. That night John couldn't sleep. The light from the well stayed steady, but his mind was restless. He felt a pull deep inside him, a connection that stretched beyond the stars. For a moment he saw flashes. Kara's ship drifting through the void, the Huntresses repairing their armor, the darkness moving like a living thing behind them. Then the vision vanished, leaving him breathless. Days turned into weeks. The world outside began to rebuild after the storm. Cities regained power, people returned to their homes, and life moved on. But John knew that something had changed permanently. He was no longer just a man living on a quiet farm. He was part of something far greater and far more dangerous. One night a message appeared on the radio again. This time it wasn't static or soldiers. It was a calm, familiar voice. "Guardian," it said, "the stars are shifting. When the sky burns red again, the Huntresses will return. Until then, protect the seal." John smiled faintly and looked up at the night sky. The stars were bright, scattered across the darkness like shards of glass. He could almost feel them watching him back. He walked toward the farmhouse, the soft hum of the well echoing behind him. The light followed his footsteps, spreading faintly across the field, protecting the soil and the world beneath it. Before entering the house, he turned for one last look at the horizon. Somewhere beyond those stars, Kara and her warriors were still fighting, still guarding humanity's edge. And here, on this small patch of earth, he was doing the same. The storm would return. He knew that now. But when it did, they wouldn't be facing it alone. John whispered into the cool night air, "I'll be ready." The wind carried his words away, merging with the faint hum of the seal. The sky remained calm and endless, but beneath it, two worlds were bound. One human, one beyond, waiting for the next dawn when destiny would call again.